Hello again, class. So, for my final assignment, I did a research paper on the Rockefeller dynasty, which attempted to explore the profound influence that Standard Oil and the Rockefeller dynasty had on the development of the U.S. foreign policy from the late 19th to the middle of the 20th century, and actually kind of beyond. The main argument of the paper was that the global expansion of Standard Oil served as a catalyst for American diplomatic and strategic engagement abroad. It also contrasted Rockefeller's religiously motivated philanthropy, originally John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, commonly known as the world's first billionaire, was actually very Christian-oriented in his philanthropical outlook. He claimed in several of his writings, and one in particular, that he got the notion of charitable giving from his Christian mother, who was a Baptist, and took all of him and his brothers and sisters to Sunday school, and they would always put coins, pennies in the plate. And he claimed that he learned his giving habits, his thrift, from his mother. However, over time, the corporate entity of Standard Oil developed into a global hegemon, essentially, of corporate power, philanthropy, and grew so much that it influenced United States foreign policy and diplomacy, and changed the geopolitical landscape of the 20th century. So, in the paper, I really tried to explore the crossover between private enterprise and foreign policy in the United States government. And the basic research question, which I attempted to explore in this paper, attempted to answer, was: how did Standard Oil and the Rockefeller dynasty influence the development and execution of U.S. foreign policy from the late 19th to the mid 20th century? The question is significant because it reveals the ways in which private enterprise can shape national strategy. It still does so today. The crossover between the federal government and private business is one which is very noticeable today. It's been so since at least the end of the 19th century. So the significance is that it explores how private enterprise can shape national strategy, diplomacy, how it can define elements of global power, and how understanding this dynamic helps us analyze modern corporate influence on international relations. And that's essentially it. The primary sources which I consulted were United States State Department correspondence between the Secretary of State, the presidential cabinets of from the 1880s to the 1940s and somewhat beyond. They carried on extensive, almost endless correspondence with Standard Oil representatives all across the globe, which was very interesting to look at. I looked at the Rockefeller Foundation records, which had some of this correspondence, but also records of their activities surrounding their philanthropy. I looked into Ida Tarbell's investigative journalism into the Rockefeller family, or critique of them, and also looked into Rockefeller's own writings. And the methodology was to look at these archival documents and analyze them historically, to compare them, to compare a comparative ideological study of giving and what sort of in a moral framework, what the moral framework of someone like Rockefeller was working from versus what someone like Ida Tarbell on the left side of things, the moral social framework they were working from. And some of those sort of their presuppositional beliefs. And finally, I attempted to integrate this diplomatic geopolitical history with private corporate strategy. My findings essentially were that Standard Oil's global expansion did align with U.S. foreign policy goals almost completely, to the point where you could say they were basically almost always the same. Now, I'm not one that says this is all for bad or for naught, or that they were the big evil capitalist boogeymen, but it's important to understand how the private sector influences foreign policy decision in a way that sort of transcends the government. It even happens today. Rockefeller's philanthropy evolved from religious stewardship, but it evolved into strategic power abroad. The ideological clash between private benevolence and public regulation shaped American governance and global influence in the 20th century to a large degree. That was the question. The answer to the question was that in almost every way, it influenced the development and execution of U.S. foreign policy to the point of being almost indistinguishable most of the time. So that's it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.